Welcome back to another Reaconteur video, and in today's video we're going to be going over the various stereotypes based on the weapons and those who use them in the Roblox game type Soul. Make sure to subscribe, since only about 20% of the people watching this video right now are actually subscribed. And if you want to hear me make song covers, then buy a YouTube membership, because I do those for YouTube members. Now let's get into it. If you use the Shunko gauntlets, you run Soul Reaper Hakuda. This is the Soul Reaper Hakuda weapon, so this literally just means you use Soul Reaper and Hakuda. So I mean, I guess everyone just kinda hates on you for using Hakuda, but this is too broad for a single defining stereotype. Nobody uses the Twin Blade. I've probably seen it used maybe twice in the last year. However, if you do use the Twin Blade, more than likely you only use it because you think the concept of a weapon that's completely unique in your mode, regardless of your Shikai, is cool. Even though, you know, most weapons get different crits in Bankai, but, you know, it's, I guess this one changes. It looks way different too. That's cool, right? With your mid weapon. Scythe is actually currently the best weapon among Soul Reaper commons, since the crit combo starts and extends, so most of the people using Scythe comboed into Shot of Flow or Eviscerate either work, and most people using the Scythe probably run either Horizon Core or Unseen Essence, and go crazy with the most mediocre kendo gameplay you've ever seen. And by that I mean vertical down, M1 feint, split gate, Horizon Core, run away for 30 seconds, repeat. If you're using Spear, you're just trying to cheese your Bankai fight, because the Spear is literally only good because the crit also kind of acts like an evasive. So what people do is they run the Spear, and they use max speed, and they run away while spamming Spear crit, Fast Fang, Time Cut, on repeat until they can beat the Bankai boss. The funny thing about this is that most people do it in Visored, but back in my day, you can't call me Unk for that, people didn't even have Visored before they got Bankai. In fact, most people didn't have either. If you use the hammer, you ran out of rerolls. The only possible people using hammer are people who fully committed to using all their rerolls trying to get Odachi or something else, or maybe longsword, and then you ended up with the hammer. The reason I know this is because the only two people I've ever seen with hammer in Type Soul were in the Discord asking for weapon rerolls or codes, so they clearly didn't want it. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know the Greatsword was a weapon until I saw it in the Trello. Like actually, I have never seen the Greatsword in my entire life. So you know how Soundsmith in his stereotypes videos would skip over things nobody uses due to lack of stereotypes? Yeah, that's this. But for the rest of the video, I won't be talking about them. They're just not gonna make it into the video. You thought the dual swords were cool because you're dual wielding swords. Alternatively, you might just think the range crit is good for pressuring at a distance. They're kinda mid, but they're not terrible for a common, so I'm just gonna assume you're someone who hasn't really used codes yet, and you were fine with keeping these until you could get something better. The Petals weapon, or the sword which is the Shikai exclusive for Flower. This is literally the same as the stereotype for Flower Shikai, which was in the last video, which I will restate it anyway though. Either you're a mid Kendo player or you're a Hakuda player who uses Flower because the sword confuses people and makes the animations even harder to read. Regardless, you're probably just a huge weirdo. The paintbrush is basically the same as Flower. You're either a mid-kendo player or you run Ink Shikai with Hakuda to confuse people and make the, you know, animations harder to read. Like, Ink and Flower are nearly identical in their use cases. Fuck this weapon. Oh my god. Longsword, by the way, has not only a combo extending crit that's hard to read, has a pretty long range for a sword, and guard breaks, but it also had equal swing speed to the dagger for such a long time. Except guess this, the dagger never has the range the longsword has. So all the problems with the dagger, like getting M1 spammed out of my combo, would also happen with the longsword, with all of this other bullshit on top of it. Longsword users basically just use this now because they know it's abusable, and unlike the Odachi, it won't get nerfed, and it's probably gonna go back to meta as soon as Odachi gets nerfed, probably today or tomorrow from the time this video is coming out. Before the nerf, the dagger was also really annoying like the longsword. This thing is, you know, the weapon's crit is actually more annoying than the longsword because it has a disjointed hitbox. It's actually way farther from the user than what it looks like in comparison to other crits. At least longsword's crit windup is predictable, and the hitbox is accurate, so I can usually parry the longsword. But dagger users love to spam the crit for a free hit or guard break, and 90% of the time, they would spam M1 to escape combos because half of them are auto-clicking, Or at least they were auto-clicking before the swing time got nerfed. Which, also, they all run blood, and for some reason, if they don't run blood, they all just have the same hair and cloak. They all look the exact same. Show me a dagger user that's not using that weird spiky hair and that black and red cloak. You can't, because they all run it. Once again, fuck this weapon. The Odachi is stupid. I shouldn't be getting hit by the biggest crit hitbox in the game, and then proceed to get true comboed into literally any move in their kit. And on top of that, this has a much lower crit than the Grimgel Claws weapon, which is what I use. So, you're telling me that people can spam the crits as much as possible right now because it stuns for so long, that landing the crit will allow you to land basically any move in a true combo, but then that has a lower cooldown than my up tilt that only goes into, like, grand entrance? Neutra's Scythe is used by like every kendo user at this point. The crippling crit is just really annoying. Most people using this do basically the same combo of crit into vertical down or split gate into horizon core essence, and if they're visored with speed and kendo, it's rising swallow into flash fang into horizon core. Or maybe they're using unseen blade and they just spam it to get out of Hakata combos because they're bad. I hope saying visored about the arrancar weapon got at least one person to comment correcting my mistake. Thank you. Anyway, people who use Nelio's lance probably just thought it looked cool and it glows. The weapon itself is mid, but the people who use it probably just like to spam projectiles because why else would you be running this? The crit is almost useless outside of the fact that it's a projectile. Baragon's axe users are kendo users, but they're very annoying ones. You know, more than usual at least. You get him in a combo, hyper armor crit. He has you in a combo, hyper armor crit. He thinks you might use an auto target move, but he's really not sure, hyper armor crit. But now he looks dumb because after that last one, it just kind of looks like he's spamming crits because he just threw it out for no reason. Baragon's axe users love that hyper armor crit. If you use Grimgel Claws, you're just a Hakata user. Like, this is the only Hakata weapon in the game for arrancars. That's the stereotype. It's too broad to get a designated stereotype because it's just used by every Hakata user in existence. Alternatively, you're a Reaconteur fan who's trying out the Reaconteur build with the Reaconteur Claws. 15 Hakata, 50 speed, no skill boxes, Sero grab. I'm not gonna lie, I forgot that Wonder Wease's sword was an arrancar weapon. Like, nobody ever uses it. I've seen it maybe twice ever, and not a soul is using it, so I'm just gonna kind of skip over it. I just want to go over the fact that nobody uses this piece of trash. Harabelle's dagger is like, it's hard to explain. Like, imagine if the Soul Reaper dagger sucked. Like, the animations are the same, pretty much. They look the same, but then it's just the Soul Reaper dagger if it sucked. Nobody uses it, so not really a stereotype other than I guess you spawned with it and haven't changed off of it yet. Tessin is the good common weapon for arrancars. Tessin users similar to Baragon's axe users love their crit, just for a different use case. Instead of spamming their crit defensively, Tessin users prefer to spam their crit offensively. And guess what? It is another combo into Sonata Flow like every other move in this game. So expect this guy to use Blade Sero, Tessin Crit, Sonata Flow, and spam all of those. Also, for some reason, these are usually the guys who are like Grand Ray Sero carried players in Ranked, and they spam that whenever they can. So if you know how to parry Grand Ray Sero, then they should be light work because they're taking off chunks of their own health every time they use it, just for you to parry it anyway. If you use Ulquiorra's Katana, you're an Ulquiorra fan. It was once good, but ever since they removed the crit guard breaking, this weapon's been terribly mid. Not even mid, actually, just bad. The only people using this are Ulquiorra fans, hoping the weapon gets buffed so it's not as bad anymore. But here's a little hint. It might be getting buffed pretty soon. Don't tell the devs I told you this. I'm trying to get it buffed. I'm on the balancing team. The Calibre is probably the best weapon right now, even after the nerfs, funnily enough. The aerial variant of the AoE can actually escape Hakata combos almost all the times, but it's also just a massive AoE. Overall, if someone's using the Calibre, they're probably using a really stupid build that abuses things like Keto and just all the metas they can. They probably move stack Strata Strike into Hollow Bite. They spam the aerial crit anytime a Hakata user attempts to do anything at all other than Spine Rend because, you know, the crit gets them out of anything. And it's a free combo escape most of the time against basically anything. And then a lot of them also just like to jump crit, just like whenever they get caught in anything anyway. Oh, you're about a blooming cut? Let me just jump and press R instead of parrying it or blocking it like a normal person. These guys are weirdos. I don't like the Hollow Burden. Regardless, people who use it spam the crit anytime they get. Funnily enough, when it first came out, the crit spam was even worse because landing it was like refreshing it, meaning that if someone's bad enough, you could spam the crit infinitely on someone who doesn't know how to parry it, and a lot of the time people using the hollow burden did this. While that is fixed, people still spam the crit whenever possible because crippling 2-part crit that does a lot of damage is really good. The crit on the Blood Edge emits so many particles that it's basically impossible to see through it, so most people using the Blood Edge will crit spam into pressing every button on their kit, hoping that the mist covers them so that way they can force you into a combo because you can't see what they're doing through all that purple haze. You like the reference? Anyway, that's the only benefit because the M1s on this weapon suck, so most people using it actually just hard crutch on the crit. Quincy is the only faction with more than one Hakuto weapon, so I actually can give stereotypes for each of them. So if you use the Kang-Do clause, it's for one of two reasons. Either you abuse the stun time on the crit to land free Tora reach openings into combos, or you want to be different so insanely bad. Like, Warden is better in maybe 90% of use cases and scenarios, because its crit guard breaks and combo extends slightly. So if you use these, you probably just want to stand out. Or maybe you use it because barely anyone else uses it, so nobody knows how to parry the crit properly. Warden is used by the average Quincy Hakuto player. What's strange though is that a lot, and I mean a lot, of Quincy Warden players feint way too much. Like, they will feint anything they can into the crit for the extra damage, and it's actually insane. They will almost never commit to a full combo. If you use Schwert, it's just range spam. You use Quincy Keto, you spam all the range moves you can. Like Reaconteur, Holy Thunder. You press tab, you spam arrows whenever you can. As soon as you can, as soon as your Reiatsu is below half. Shadow into step back 3. I mean step back Schwert crit. Look, you run and spam Keto moves while trying to disable people for as long as possible, and I don't like you. The Quilge is, or Quilge, however you say it, is for the most annoying type of Quincy player. The Jail Quincy player. You love disabling people's moves as much as possible. Reishi string spam, Quilg crit spam, like Reagan spam, just because you have it. You also play Keto, but I understand why. Keto Quincy is just, it's always going to be the best tree no matter how badly they nerf it. Which literally just makes Quincy worse as a whole because it is always going to be the best tree. Weird pattern, I know, but every Juggrim Shield player I know is fat. I don't know why, but that's just a pattern I've noticed. They are all fat and white. I don't know what it is. Just like if you see a Juggrim Shield player, try and get them the face reveal, because I guarantee you they're going to be fat. You put a switch on it. By that I mean you spam the Quincy Glock aerial crit to escape combos so fast people would think you put a switch on it. Quincy Glock players love that aerial crit, and that's why they stuck with it for so long, because now they can just spam R and escape. Every Quincy who's not Hakuto uses Spalton, realistically. Nothing special here except the fact that you're metamancing. I mean, I use it on my Quincy slot too, but just know you're literally 2/3 of the Quincy population. You could not be in a smaller, minority, because you're not. You're part of the majority if you use Spalton. Big shout out to the bigger guy YouTube members, Kenix and Jake. I love both of you more than the rest of you watching this. But just know, I hope you all enjoyed as usual. I have no real video ideas today, so stereotypes was kind of my default, and people were asking me to do weapons, so, you know, there's a lot of it. I can make a decently long video out of this. The last one did pretty good. And yeah, I hope you're all having a great day. I'm sadly not going to be streaming today because I am busy this entire weekend. So I'll be back streaming on Twitch on Monday. I want to make 10 stages of Quincy, but I might not, honestly. Like, I could probably upload that at any point, and it would probably get like 60 to 100,000 views like the last one did. And that video was pretty fun to make. But this is just like kind of like, oh, now I gotta talk about Quincy? Oh, brother, ew. Regardless, I love you all. I'm not streaming today. I'll be back on Monday. So, goodbye. Have a great day. And yeah, goodbye.